Good morning, Dan and Amy. So everything checks out with Trump in terms of his health, minus being a little overweight.
Yeah. And he wants, just like any woman, he could stand to lose 15 to 20 pounds.
That's exactly right. He's very body conscious.
He is. I think he is a little self-conscious.
Well, he's just alternatively shaped.
Yeah.
As is his opponent.
And his real weight is 236, not 267, as reported here yesterday.
Well, it was reported
everywhere. It was
yes.
Vacillation between 267 and 236.
At a certain weight, they become rounding errors.
Oh, yeah.
Don't they? The other debate that has raged, in addition to all this about the respective candidates' health this week, is kind of in intellectual conservative circles between never-Trumpers and those pillaring never-Trumpers as being tone-deaf to what's happening in the body politic. We have talked about the Flight 93 articles that were posted by Publius Decius Mos in
I love when you say that.
Claremont Institute. And conversely, the piece by Bret Stephens in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week, Never Trump for Dummies. Well, we had a bit of a debate, an Intelligence Squared debate. I think it was last night, or perhaps the night before. But it was earlier this week, and it involved Tim Carney and Ben Domenech on one hand, and Bret Stephens from the Wall Street Journal and Jennifer Rubin from the Washington Post on the other hand. The question to be resolved, are elites to blame for fueling the Trump phenomenon? And we're happy to be joined by one of those firing line-esque participants. He is Tim Carney, senior political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, WashingtonExaminer.com. Tim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, I like Bret Stephens, but I thought his Never Trump for Dummies was, frankly, a bit sophomoric this week. And you and Ben Domenech from the Federalist took the position that elites are to blame, if you want to use the word blame, for fueling the Trump phenomenon. Explain the argument you offered in the Intelligence Squared debate on topic.
Well, Ben made the point that there's just been a series of consistent elite failures over the last couple of decades. You can talk about the Iraq War. You can talk about the fact that the country felt let down by what happened in Katrina. You can talk about the Republicans being overcome by crony capitalist lobbyists like Jack Abramoff and all that stuff. You could talk about the financial crisis, the failed stimulus, Obamacare. Republicans specifically promising everything every election and then not even trying to deliver for the most part. And that what it did is just bred a really deep distrust. And I added on to that the fact that in addition to that, the elites had a chance to beat Trump in the primary. Jeb Bush decided instead to beat up Marco Rubio. Chris Christie did the same thing. Rubio didn't rise to the occasion. So that it seems pretty clear to me that the people who have been in power in both parties, especially the Republican parties, created a system in which the electorate was primed for somebody I think is a demagogue, Donald Trump.
And so what's the argument from Stephens that the elites bear no responsibility?
Well, he made the conservative point that conservatives shouldn't go around saying, oh, well, these voters can't help themselves, they don't bear any blame. If you think Trump having the nomination is a bad thing, you have to blame the people who elected Trump, and it's a valid point. But it doesn't remove the guilt from the people who had just again and again let down the party and promised everything and delivered nothing. We ended up winning the debate. We moved from 33% agreeing with us beforehand, or 36 beforehand to 58 after, and I think it sort of reflected that people. When the case is made to them, they see, you know what, the Republicans had a chance, even after the failures, to take the populist energy that was reflected in the Tea Party and channel it towards conservatism. But instead, they tried to squelch the populism. Mitt Romney told the bottom 47% that they couldn't join the country club, and it was a major failure that's given way to a candidate I think is destructive of the Republican Party and one of the few people who would be likely to lose to Hillary Clinton, I think.
So when you look at the Never Trumpers, is there any way Donald Trump can get them back to his camp or change their minds in any way between now and, 52 days from now?
For the never Trumpers, you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for some maybe, but from my perspective and for a lot of other people, it's a question of who the man that Donald Trump is and has been for 70 years, and that's not going to change in the next 2 months. It's sort of a joke among the media that you're waiting for the pivot, right? The pivot's not going to happen. That Donald Trump hasn't shown any real understanding of conservatism. He talks about the Supreme Court. He can read a list of names given to him by the Federalist Society or the Heritage Foundation, but he's never shown any understanding of the Constitution, and that's not going to change in the next 6 weeks. He recently said, well, maybe I'll put Peter Thiel on the Supreme Court, which, again, doesn't show an understanding
Well,
of the way
not to be fair, both Thiel's spokesman and Trump campaign have denied that suggestion. But
well, good. I'm glad. I was traveling to New York for this debate, so I missed the denial. That makes me feel better about Trump.
Well, yeah, I understand.
There you go.
But so here's the thing. One of you read the Flight 93 articles that have been bandied about. So one of the
very well written. Yes.
One of the contentions the author makes is the left doesn't come. The right doesn't come up. Conservatives don't come up with all of these bizarre ideas to kind of foment this false solidarity and marginality construct that the left does with all their social engineering and big government gambits. But what conservatives have done, at least the Beltway conservative types that are in office, that are in positions of authority, is they've ratified the gambits that the left has proposed. And so, that kind of speaks to what you're saying about the missed opportunities, but it's even more than missed opportunities. It's pushing the other side's agenda while rhetorically saying we're opposed to it.
No, and that's true. And that I do think, that essay I thought was very well written, and every part of it I thought was an excellent critique of both the Republican elite establishment and the sort of conservative movement, if you understand that as something separate from that. And that there were these promises, and that what ended up happening, the idea that in Washington the status quo is sort of beneficial to a lot of people, including those who rail against it, that is absolutely a true motion. The last man I would trust to try to change the rigged system is a self-professed crony capitalist.
Right.
But the rest of that article I thought made very good points, that Washington is a game. And the point I made in the debate, 5 of the 6 richest counties in America are right here within commuting distance of the U.S. Capitol. I'm in a Chick-fil-A in one of them right now, Montgomery County. And that is not a sign of a good republic. That's a sign of a capital extracting wealth from the rest of the country.
I'll take a chicken sandwich with some of those.
Pickle or no pickle?
Yeah, no pickle. And a large unsweetened iced tea. So here
they have even better Chick-fil-A's here. That's how good we are.
Oh, there you go. See, because he's in a better county, a richer county.
She's living a better life.
Yes.
I mean, that's the point, isn't it? Well, so if that indictment is fair, then what about this one? This idea, and this was Bret Stephens' piece this week. We survived 8 years of Obama. We can survive 4 or 8 years of Clinton. And the author, again, of the Flight 93 article says, well, this is where conservatives seem to be a bit contradictory. If everything they say is important, and if the Republic is careening to a very bad place in a very short period of time, then don't we have to essentially make the more relativistic choice that elections present between the two options and vote for Trump? What do you say to that?
Yeah, and that's where the Flight 93 image is coming in. Is the hijackers are in the cockpit, and if we take it over, we'll probably die. But if we stay here, we're definitely going to die. I don't think that's true. I think that the damage you do from attaching the Republican Party more firmly to who I think is a liberal crony capitalist con man, that empowers the left in the long run, not even in the long run, but over the next 10, 15 years. The left is made more strong by 4 years of Trump in the White House, followed by an almost certain Democratic presidency. And that Hillary Clinton is at least not ideologically ambitious in most areas. She's not a liberal, while Bernie Sanders was saying we're going to remake the whole basis of American society. Hillary was basically saying we're all going to get along and beat the Republicans. So I think there are some real culture war problems. I think religious liberty is under threat under Hillary. But a lot of the other things, I think 4 years of Hillary is better than 4 years of Trump, followed by a Republican Party that would, I believe, be burnt down to the foundation if Trump were their president for 4 years. Not just because he's not a conservative and not just because he's not popular, but because he's incompetent and could really damage the country in ways that would make it very hard for anybody to ever trust the party again.
But don't you think he'd surround himself with conservatives that are like-minded and could steer him in the right direction?
I know that argument, and I have friends who really believe it and are willing to work for him because of it. But the telling incident recently, two telling incidents. One, a few weeks back, when he sort of intentionally went out of his way to make Paul Ryan squirm and say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to endorse him yet," and then eventually endorsed him. It was a sign of how Trump does business, where you'd never just sign on the dotted line and then he listens to you. I think he is into demeaning other people, including those who work for him. And then the second one was this plan for for working moms and all that stuff. I have a friend, Ryan Ellis, who wrote a piece who says it doesn't really help mothers very much, and what it does is it just implements what Ivanka wanted. And what's wrong with that? It reflects what we've always known, that's the person he listens to most. His three children, Ivanka, Donald Jr., and Eric, and they're not even close to conservatives. Ivanka is a pro-choice, far-left, pro-gay marriage liberal who believes in big government. And the people closest to him, the only people he trusts and doesn't try to sort of alpha dog around, are not conservative. So that's why I don't think it matters if he, hires a Newt Gingrich or something like that.
All right. He is Tim Carney, senior political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Tim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.